So one thing that he shared with us was, here a lot of people come and buy from my shop, and every time they buy from my shop, I take the WhatsApp number. And there's a WhatsApp group I have created of all people who have bought from me. And every time new stuff comes into my store, I take a photograph and put in that. And I tell कि कितना inventory है. So a lot of people keep ordering there कि ये मेरा है, please book it for me. I don't want someone else to take it. And say okay, fine. He sent the photo from the shop, collect the money, give the product. And the guy was saying कि now I'm doing 30-40% of my sales on this WhatsApp group. यानी कि मेरा भाई runs a shop in Whitefield, वो तो 50-60% करता है, right? So this was crazy to us. We never seen. Like by 2015, selling on WhatsApp, no one would have believed us.
Hey folks, welcome to the First Check show. This is going to be a series of chats that I have with friends of First Check. On this show, we are going to be talking to successful founders that have been there, done that, and were probably in your shoes many years back as struggling first-time founders. We will speak to them, listen to their stories, and try and pick some nuggets of wisdom from them on how they broke out and built a large company. This one in this series is a chat that I had with Vidit Atre and Sanjeev Banwal, the co-founders of Meesho. Meesho is India's largest social selling platform which supports more than 10 million entrepreneurs, enabling them with access to products, logistics, and payment tools. This helps them sell all kinds of these products on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and other social media channels. Meesho is today a Series D funded startup. They have raised more than $100 million from people like Facebook, Prosus, which was earlier Naspers, Shunwai Capital, Sequoia Capital, Safe Partners, DST Partners, Venture Highway, and all the way back to Y Combinator. Vidit and Sanjeev started this amazing company back in May 2015. And in this conversation, we will cover everything from why they started this business, how did they decide to become entrepreneurs, what were the twists and turns in their journey, what their original model was, and what advice they have for young founders like you who want to start companies today. I had a lot of fun doing this chat and I hope so do you. If you like this conversation, please do hit those like and subscribe buttons so that we can reach out to even more founders like you. Keep building, keep hustling. Cheers. Why don't we start with just what is Meesho? For people who are watching this, like Varun, one of you just explain what Meesho does, why is it an important company, and why did you guys decide to build this?
So let me take this one. So Meesho has been multiple things over the last 5 years, right? So we pivoted multiple times to land where we are today. But today Meesho is a platform where mostly women can come and start their fashion boutiques online.
Okay.
And why is this significant and why is this important? So in India, like only 20% of women are part of the workforce. Even among developing countries, this number is extraordinarily low, right? Like very, very low. You go to any developing country with similar per capita, women workforce penetration is much higher.
Yeah.
And this is because of a lot of cultural reasons all of us know about, right? Because yeah. But if you look at this lady, a lot of them are ambitious, educated, and want to do something, and purely for two reasons. One is they want to have a professional identity of their own. They want to feel that they are something, that people know them for something. The second thing is for some financial independence. You don't want to like ask your husband or family for each and every single penny that you want to spend, right? Because that again comes to your confidence. So a lot of women historically have tried to start some at-home businesses. So some women start these fashion boutiques at home. So they'll go to these fancy wholesale markets in Chandni Chowk or Jaipur and buy this stuff and come back at home and start to sell to women in their community. And other women used to buy from them because they have a better sense in fashion. Now the problem with this format is you need money to first buy and then sell, right?
Yeah.
With India's per capita level, you can imagine most people don't have access to money. And even in families where you have access to money, generally these women are not the biggest priority.
Yeah.
So what tends to happen is this lady who can't go outside of the house and work has a dream of starting her own fashion boutique because of everything that comes along with it. But you can't do it because you don't have money. So what we did, we essentially built a way of her running this fashion boutique online and run it on social channels where her community already exists because she will sell it to them. And we eliminated the need of this working capital by letting her do drop shipping. So we built a marketplace so you can connect with all possible kind of suppliers in all possible categories. And then you can start to curate whenever you get an order, you ask the supplier ship to directly to the consumer, and the order is done. It required you to put in 0 rupee as investment, and you are running a fledgling business, right? And this business is not a very niche thing, right? You don't see it. Like when I was growing up, I used to see women running this at home almost everywhere, even when so many obstacles existed. So we started this business, I think, almost 4 years ago. Now we have about 9 million women across the country. In like, I'll be surprised to know a city or town where we don't have Misho entrepreneurs today. But we have 9 million women who are running their business, growing it in their own community. Because of the business, they have gained confidence. People know them, not by their husband's name, but by the business name that they run in their community. And they have financial independence to kind of buy gifts for their kids or family without asking someone. So that's what Misho is.
Awesome. That is an important company to build, man. That's a great way to put it. Okay, so like you guys are not from traditional business families, right? Like where did you guys grow up? What was your childhood like? What did your parents do? So why don't you give our viewers, a flavor of like how you guys grew up?
Yeah, so I'll take this first. So I am from a very small town in Jharkhand. I think again a low middle class family where the only thing that people aspire to become is either engineer or doctor, and then your life is set properly. And this is the expectation there. Yeah, so did my schooling there, and then went to IIT Delhi. Me and Vidit, we both were batchmates. I think same hostel, same department, same wing, very good friends. And after that, I went to Sony in Tokyo. I was there for 3 years, helping them build their consumer and DSLR cameras. And then we kind of thought of starting up, and that is again an interesting story which we can get into if you want. But yes,
yeah, we will definitely get into that. And what about you, Vidit? Where did you grow up? What did your parents do?
Yeah, so like very similar background, lower middle class family. My mom was a homemaker. My dad worked with the Delhi government. Like they're the first migrant out of a village in Uttar Pradesh. So I grew up in Delhi, stayed there, went to IIT Delhi. Again, very similar aspiration. When I was growing up, my dad always wanted me to be an IAS officer because his obviously super boss was an officer. So he wanted me to be one. And that path went through becoming an engineer. So that's why I went there. My dad had very clear expectations set. Hey, you go there, after that you study and become an IAS officer. So like very conventional family.
Yeah.
But yeah, like then you come to IIT and then you meet all these fantastic people and your aspirations change.
Yeah, awesome. So which year did you guys go to IIT?
We were in 2008 to 2012.
Okay.
It was from electrical engineering.
Yeah.
And we're from the Jwalamukhi hostel. I'm sure everyone who's from IIT Delhi will connect with it. Even now, when I meet like people who are 40 years out of IIT Delhi, as soon as I say IIT Delhi, so the first thing they ask me is, "Tumhara hostel kya hai?" Right? So it's that hasn't changed a bit.
Nice. And what was IIT like for both of you? Like, what did you expect from it? What was the surprising part about IIT? And like in general, were there any lessons you learned there that stuck with you through life?
Yeah, I think first thing is, of course, it's an extremely humbling experience. So you kind of clear this JEE, which is you get like awesome ranks. You have super high expectations from you. Okay, you have excelled everything in the world, and then you go there and you see, oh, these are super smart people around you who have expertise not just in their own field, but also someone is a kind of very good singer, very good guitar player, probably kind of one of the artist level players out there, and it's an extremely humbling experience. I think it was for me. What about you with it?
So I think for everyone, IIT is a very humbling experience, right? Like everyone goes there thinking they're a rock star, and then you realize that hey, you are nothing in this group, right? And I think that's one of the big learnings that IIT has given us. To me, so I think my experience was also very similar to any middle class guy going there, and very different from most of the people who are at IIT, right? So when I grew up, I did not have anyone around me who ever went to IIT. Like I don't even know anyone who did engineering around me when I was growing up. So in my dad's background, there's never been a single engineer before me. in my school, never, like, no one before me ever went to IIT, right? So you never had these role models. You never knew what do people do after IIT. The only thing you knew that it's IIT and full stop. What comes after that, no one has any idea, right? So the first few years for me in IIT were just inspiration. So you get to know about what do people do after they get here. And then you realize, okay, hey, I thought that people will be studying to kind of go here and there, become an IS officer. And you realize like everyone has been working in things that you do not expect them to, right? Like as Sanjeev said, like people are slogging off trying to become a better guitarist, or someone is slogging off to become a better bowler, trying to play for Inter IIT. So that was my inspiration. Then my inspiration was like looking at alumni, and then I realized like some people go work for consulting firms. Like everyone's somehow inspiring for it. I can't even understand what this means. Some people go work in banks. Some people at that time startups hadn't picked up.
Yeah.
Right? I still remember when I was there, Zomato founder used to come to college very often and talk about Foodie Bay, which was the first product they had.
Yeah.
Right? And like no one is looking at them because the only thing that you aspire for is some of the other things. So for me, like everything was new, like everything, like people, what things that people can do post IIT, like what does career mean? So it was just inspiration for me for a very, very long time before I could start to make sense around what kind of things I like and I would like to do. And I realize a lot of people in IIT essentially come from like family where they know someone like this, right? And their experience is very different. These guys on day one know, hey, I've come here to become an investment banker on day one, right? So I'm gonna do these PORs, I'm gonna study well in these courses, and at the end I will do internship with them. But in my case, like I just took a couple of years just to make sense of what's happening around me.
Yeah.
I think initial few years were never planned. We just couldn't figure out what is going to be the next step. It was completely unplanned. And then after spending probably 1 or 2 years, you realize, okay, this is a field where you might want to kind of try and get deeper into. And that is how I ended up in coding, even though being in from electrical engineering. Thought, okay, this is something which excites me. Probably I like doing. So I pursue this field. But probably while entering into IT, or even for the first 2 years, it was never clear.
Nice. And that's how, I don't know if the audience will want to hear it, but at around this time in our lives, I and Vidit first met. I don't know if Sanjeev also knows this story, but I had gone to a startup event in Delhi to pitch a startup that I was then working on, and Vidit was randomly in my team at that point. That's when I first met him. This is in 2012.
Wow.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah,
So
he was in final year, I was in final year, and we had participated. So me and my co-founder did end up starting that company after bids. It did not work out in the longer run, but that group was pretty awesome. That within it, there was another guy whose company Facebook bought. There was one guy who was a VC, and it was a fun time. Like all of us were sort of exploring what startups was very new in 2012. Now when I look back, even the people who came to judge that event were like so lame, and like everybody was so excited to go and present there कि चलो कुछ तो हो रहा है, startup कर रहे हैं. But yeah, I think India has come a very long way since that time.
Big coincidence. I still remember, again, as I said, every year was a different inspiration for me. I think last year, by then, I think people had started to talk about startup. And then I wanted to see कि भाई ये चलता क्या है, like what does it mean? So I started to go to these events. And by pure coincidence, I met you and a couple of other people who, as you said, have done so well in the startup ecosystem. These were the early days. I never thought that all of this will happen, by the way. Like you met some random people, like I did not know any of them.
Yeah.
It's met and created a group with some random people, and then you realize some of these people will tend to do like so many great things in the ecosystem.
Yeah. So after IIT, what did you guys do? So Sanjeev, you mentioned you went to Sony in Japan and you worked for them. How long was that? Like, did you go immediately after IIT?
Yeah. So immediately after IIT, it was a campus placement. So I went there, and the entire working language is Japanese. So I had to learn basic reading and writing Japanese skills. But it was a great experience, right? It's completely different culture from what you experience in India.
Yeah.
So definitely an eye-opener. Some of the things that they do are so organized that you'd want to kind of replicate some of their daily practices in your life. But yeah, so I was there for the first 1.5 years. I was in one of the department building one of the application layers for cameras. And then for the next 1.5 years, I was into their Xperia premium lineup, building one of the hardware abstraction layers.
Okay.
One very interesting story with Sanjeev's Japanese. So we used to, in our early days, we used to go and pitch these seed investors, and some of them were Japanese. So we'll go, and Sanjeev can speak Japanese very fluently and understand, by the way. So we'll go and he will speak in Japanese, I think explain most of the business. And then I'm sitting there lost. I don't even know what's happening in the conversation.
Yeah, I think at that point in time, my Japanese skills were pretty decent. But then the last 5 years, I'm sure I would have lost most of it.
Yeah. Awesome. And Vidit, where did you go after IIT?
So I worked with ITC for a couple of years. I was in operations with their packaging business. I spent about 2 years there, then moved to Inmobi. So I think again pure by luck. So I was speaking to a lot of my college seniors. By then, this whole tech thing was becoming like quite popular. A lot of my friends were going there and talking about how some cool stuff happens. You get a lot of responsibility. But when you're in ITC, everyone wants to go and do an MBA, right?
Yeah.
So I remember it was a very standard path. You go to ITC, then you go do an MBA some part of the world, then you go and work for McKinsey or BCG. Everyone I knew there have done the exact same thing. I still, so like 15, 20 management trainees, like few batches behind or forward, all of them are doing the same thing, right? So at that time I thought, okay, hey, maybe I'll go for an MBA, but before this, let me taste the tech ecosystem. So
Yeah.
based on some recommendation, someone referred me. I went to Inmobi, spent about a year there, and then we decided to start up together.
Nice. So, but at this point, you were in Bangalore and you were in Japan.
Yeah.
So, how did the idea came कि कुछ करते हैं साथ में?
So this is a very good background story, and then Sanjeev will add to it. So I think when I was in Inmobi, spending like a lot of time there, and I also met a lot of people who went for an MBA, came back. I realized that सब कुछ करने के बाद everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Like you spend 15, 20 years in your career, and you've done MBA here, you've done this role, that role, you've done consulting, but at the end of the day, people feel here you end up creating a lot of value when you become an entrepreneur. So I said, yes, shortcut मारते हैं, ये सब लंबा route ही क्यों लेना है? So we just stopped all of this. So I started to woo a lot of my friends who were techies. So I used to take them on lunches and dinners and convince them to become my co-founder. So anyone I knew in Bangalore at that time, I used to kind of take them out to places in HSR and Koramangala and convince them, why don't you come and start with me? Most of them said no. And very interesting story. I think this is.
Did you try to convince them with an idea, or you just said कि कुछ करना है, you come on board and we'll figure out?
कुछ करना है. I'm saying, let's do something. We'll figure out क्या करना है, but let's try something together. And some guy will say, "Nee, I'm going to get married soon." Some guy will say, "Nee, my parents won't agree." Like stuff like that, but no one agreed.
Yeah.
But I used to do this almost every Sunday. So I think most of my Sundays were like 2 days for potential co-founders. And I think this is April 2015. Yeah. One day Sanjeev calls me and Sanjeev says, I'm exploring coming back to India and join a startup.
Yeah.
So I said, like, why do you want to join a startup? Why don't you do something together? And pure by consent. So by the way, we were speaking to each other after 3 years of college.
Exactly. I think we never had a call, 0 calls in these 3 years. And then suddenly one day I thought, okay, this startup is reaching out to me. And whether it is in Bangalore, probably I should, ask him how is the startup scene. Of course, you keep hearing a lot of news.
Yeah.
The ecosystem has evolved a lot since we left, since I left after college. But just hearing from someone who is there, very closer to ecosystem, is very helpful. And that is when I called him.
Yeah.
I think he just said, why do you want to join a startup? Why not just start up together?
So you were looking for a techie and you called him at the same time that I'm thinking of coming back.
So in 5 minutes over a call, we decided, done. After 3 years, you just speak to someone 5 minutes. Everything else is done. Like nothing.
Because that trust was always there, right? We have spent so much time in college. Yeah. Okay, we have that comfort of going through the struggles of starting up and.
ये चीज सिर्फ विंगी के साथ ही हो सकती है. I don't think you can get to a decision that fast with anyone else.
Yeah, and I think next few days Sanjeev resigned.
Yeah. I think I was back in 1.5 months. I think Vidit has also
from
resigned.
That call, by the way. From that call, 1.5 months, Sanjeev back. Next few days I resigned and done. And then we said, Acha, we'll figure out what to do, but let's do this first. Like, we need to commit to it.
So, did you guys tell your parents that I'm resigning and you want to start a business?
No. So, until then, I hadn't told them. Because if I had told them, obviously, they would not have approved. We will talk to them about like after this only. So, I think after I resigned, after a few weeks after that, I spoke to my mom and dad.
So, what was their reaction?
The reaction is always pretty bad, right? think it's very difficult for parents to kind of accept this decision that you're earning decent money, you have this good growth path set up, and then you are trying to start a business. And then for them, it's like, why did you go to IT? If you wanted to start a business, you would have done it all anyway. Why did you put so much effort? And obviously, it was never an acceptable decision from them.
Yeah.
And of course, it took a lot of time for them to get that acceptance.
Yeah.
For Vidit also, it was the same thing. I think it took a lot of time. I had to, in fact, bring my parents like after Series A, after Series B, after Series C. Okay, this is how my office looks like. And I think, if I remember correctly, after Series D, I think when we had like this office where we are, he then realized, okay, now this is something big, and the decision was kind of.
Wow. I remember even at my startup when I got, I think some कोई तो भी paper में they covered us, and I went to show my grandmother that हमारा article आया है. तो I remember she had worked in government all her life. She was at BARC, so she told me कि good, but थोड़ा और मेहनत करोगे तो government job भी तुम्हें मिल सकता है.
My dad, when I broke this to my dad and my mom, my dad was like, यार तुमसे तो हो ही नहीं पाएगा. I go, why? तुम तो बनी नहीं हो, तुम तो ब्राह्मण हो. What? And my dad just did not agree. He said कि तुम्हारे खून में नहीं है business, right? Like business is not in your blood. You can't do it. That's what he told me on the call.
Wow.
Don't even try doing this because you can't do it. And then he gave me stories. I have seen a lot of people who are Brahmins who tried doing businesses. All of them have failed. I'm telling you right away, don't waste your youth. You can do so many things. Why don't you go and again try for IAS? Stuff like that. So my dad did not agree, but I think it just, after some time, like people give up. And that's my parents did. Like, okay,
Yeah.
he's not agreeing to us. Let him do whatever he wants to do.
Awesome. So what was his early journey like? You have quit your jobs. You've decided कुछ करना है, but क्या करना है मालूम नहीं था. So how did you figure out क्या करना है?
So we created a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
All the potential ideas that we like. And then we created a framework of size of market, what we can do, where competition is not there, stuff like that. We tried to create a framework basis this. And then speaking to a lot of my friends, some people in the VC ecosystem, we asked, bhai, kya karna chahiye? I think we realized one thing, which was you want to do something related to small businesses, right? Because that's the like large pie. Commerce anyways is in there. If you go to long tail small businesses, that's the largest pie. And then we started to understand where can we add value. And I think this is the time when hyperlocal was like quite big. 2015, everyone was funding one hyperlocal company everywhere. So we said, अच्छा commerce करना है small businesses के लिए and hyperlocal करना है.
Yeah.
Like someone is doing hyperlocal for food, someone is doing for services, no one is doing for fashion. Let's do fashion. So we started this product which was called Fashion Nearby.
Okay.
And imagine a very Swiggy-like experience, but for unbranded or some branded fashion shops. So you can see all the collection and you could order up to 3 products that you want to try at home. And the Chotu from that shop will come and deliver those stuff to you. And you can try them out, whatever you like, you keep, and the rest will be sent back. So that was the simple model we did. We did this for 5 months, didn't work out.
Okay. Like, how did you realize ये नहीं चल रहा है?
Like, कोई खरीदता ही नहीं था except our friends.
We had to push our friends, yaar, khareed lo. We have started up, you should support us to some extent.
So we used to stand outside shops that we had onboarded, and people who walk into the store, yaar, don't go inside. Why don't you see this collection on this app and buy it? But no one did, because you realize a lot of the people who come to malls and stuff like that, they enjoy going there. So they think, like, we are okay.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of reasons why it didn't work out. First is in fashion, you need a lot of selection, which can never be built hyperlocally. Second thing is back then, everything that was sold online directly to consumers was heavily discounted. No one puts discounted stuff in offline shops for brands, etc.
Yeah.
So we could not give discounts to people. We could not give you a lot of selection. People didn't care if it's coming from 1 kilometer away or comes from like 4,000 kilometer away warehouse.
Yeah.
But it was like a good lesson for us. We spent like 5 months there.
Nice. And then once you realized that this is not working, what did you pivot to, or how did you decide what else should we try now?
Then the story of Estilo Kanta.
Estilo Kanta, yes.
So you're gonna share the story.
Right. So I think there's this shop. It's still there in Koramangala, like fourth floor, yes. And we had onboarded that shop on our app, and it's just this multi-brand retail store of fashion.
What is it called? Estilo Kanta.
It's still at the Wipro Junction.
Okay.
We used to spend our days there.
Yeah.
So we used to catalog the stuff. So both of us used to go there and catalog the stuff. And the guy will tell us all his stories from day and night. We'll play with the kid.
He was very supportive, I think. We used to spend a lot of time, even though orders nahi aa rahe jada, he was like, "Nee, theek hai, you can try, even take a photo of my catalog, put it somewhere. Maybe orders are there."
But yeah, like the guy was very supportive. I still remember he was a Mallu who had come back from Middle East after making some money, and then he started a shop. And like he was married to some foreigner, he had a kid, right? And he used to tell us all his stories. So one thing that he shared with us was, yeah, a lot of people come and buy from my shop, and every time they buy from my shop, I take their WhatsApp number. And there's a WhatsApp group I have created of all people who have bought from me. And every time new stuff comes into my store, I take a photograph and put in that group. And I tell you kitna inventory hai. So a lot of people keep ordering there. Ki ye mera, please book it for me. I don't want someone else to take it. And say, okay, fine. He sent the Chotu from the shop, collect the money, give the product. And the guy was saying, now I'm doing 30-40% of my sales on this WhatsApp group. And कि मेरा भाई runs a shop in Whitefield, वो तो 50-60% करता है, right? So this was crazy to us. We never seen, like by the 2015 selling on WhatsApp, no one would have believed us.
Yeah.
I think we never experienced ourselves, right? We have never seen this. And this guy comes and tells us, hey, this is happening. And it was very difficult to believe as well. Probably we had to talk to some customers as well. You are buying from his WhatsApp group. This seems like it's very difficult to buy and make these decisions on WhatsApp without looking at the product and trusting this guy.
Yeah.
Happening.
So then, what did you guys conclude from that? कि WhatsApp पे commerce चल रहा है.
So then we went to a lot of other shops. So we had a lot of shops in HSR and Koramangala on our app. We went to a lot of them. You find the same experience everywhere. So all small businesses essentially do the same thing. It's like retargeting the same customer base, and few people buy generally often from the same shop because they trust that guy. So we saw this behavior. We said, this is great, and this is a problem. And then you realize this guy selling on WhatsApp has lots of issues. So how do I, every time product goes out of inventory, how do I remove that from inventory, right? How do I manage orders? Very hard to do it on a notebook. How do I manage like deliveries? How do I manage how to kind of collect money? At that time, PhonePe, Google Pay, etc. were not big.
Yeah.
So collection of payments was a hard problem. So we said, let's build a tool that will make selling on WhatsApp and Facebook easy for this guy. So we built a tool for that guy, for him to manage this commerce on WhatsApp very easily. And that will essentially become his shop online. And that's when we created this name Misho, which essentially means Meri Shop. We wanted to give this person their own shop. And that's when we launched this version. And then we gave it to him. We went to a lot of other shops. We used to go to Sol Sante, which is like a big
Flea market.
Flea market. So we used to go to each and every person who's selling there and try to convince them to come to Misho, because they say, hey, do you sell on WhatsApp? Do you sell on Facebook? The answer is mostly yes. And so why don't you install this app and create this store and sell using this? And we used to like spend all days just going to these offline stores, convince them. And again, we were doing this gradually. Our number of users were growing like many months, etc. But I think like 6 months forward, we realized that after 6 months, a lot of them were not retaining on the app, because you tend to discount the amount of effort in using a new tool in changing behaviors of people, right? So it didn't work as much. But another unique thing happened. Again, like something that was not planned. So we saw that like 6 months forward, a very different kind of TG is using our app very, very well. And then you speak to someone like this, hey, who's this person? So we pinged her on WhatsApp. And then we realized this is some lady who's running a boutique at home. Like, first of all, I didn't even realize what this means. So then I decided to go and meet like 3-4 of them in Bangalore first. So I still remember I went and met this lady in Coxtown, then one lady in Whitefield. And I'll go and ask them, why are you using our app? We didn't build it for you. You don't have any offline shop. Like, why is this important? And that's when we discovered the problem I talked about. If this lady had a dream and aspiration of starting a fashion boutique offline, she did not have money for inventory. Then she realized that now I can sell stuff on WhatsApp to my community without owning any inventory, but by just staying connected to suppliers. But managing all of this commerce on WhatsApp was hard for her. So she started to go online and look for an app that will help her manage this. And the only thing that was available in 2015-16 was us.
Yeah.
So they started to download our app and use this, like purely by accident. We never planned for that.
Nice. So when you started from the shops angle and you realized that this new TG is using, how many such women were using it? Was this one woman? Was there several that you saw that were using it?
Must at least, like when we first discovered this behavior, there'll be at least hundreds of them.
Wow.
They were selling on these Facebook groups which used to exist, where they were like maybe 1 lakh, 2 lakh members added, both buyers and sellers added, and they used to kind of go and share their products on these groups and acquire new customers, new end customers for themselves.
Yeah. Nice. And so what was your next? Once you realized कि ये TG है, how did you reposition the company or the product around this TG?
We first went deep to understand what the problem was, right? And then we understood all the problem levers that existed. And they were like, yeah, first of all, this is a very large market. Because if you look at the number of women who want to start a boutique in India is massive. Second thing is there are lots of problems. Now, for example, I'll give you another story which is still very crazy to me. So when I went to meet this lady in Whitefield, I still remember like her story. So she used to source her products from Surat.
Okay.
But she's in Bangalore. So her husband used to work in Intuit in Bangalore. She used to force him to take a leave for a week every 6 months so that he goes, takes a train to Surat, collects business cards of at least 100, 200, 300 wholesalers and come back. And then she will add all these wholesalers on WhatsApp. And that's how she will get the stuff. Then I met this lady in Coxtown. Someone in her family does a sari business in Bengal. That's how she was sourcing. So for all of these women, because they can't go out of their house, they can't take a train to a wholesale market like, as I said, Surat, Jaipur, Chandni Chowk from Bangalore. Like they have to keep doing all of this hustle to somehow figure out a way to get to supply. Yeah. So the first thing we said, can we solve this problem so that they don't have to go and take a train and find these suppliers? So we said, let's build a marketplace, right? And then we started to build other tools. And that exactly is what Meesho is today, right? So it's a marketplace so that you can discover suppliers, products and categories across the country of any possible kind that you need. And you don't need to go and take a train and do this. You can just come see what you really find unique, you curate it and send to people on WhatsApp, and that's what they like to do. That's when this pivot happened.
Nice.
I think at that point in time, we used to talk to a lot of these housewives and they used to say, and their business used to kind of keep growing and then it would suddenly stop because they just couldn't find new suppliers because all of their current connections were dried up. Their suppliers stopped giving out these product pictures to them and the business used to suddenly drop. And when you used to talk to them, always the same problem was there. Business was going good. I had customers, but then supply dried up. I just have no newer supply to sell to them.
Wow, crazy. So all along, like, how are you guys sustaining on savings? Did you guys go and raise money in the meanwhile?
So until we got to several hundred shops in the Meesho app, until then it was all our savings. So I think I exhausted everything close to them. Both of us did because we're spending everything from our side. The good thing was we found our first angel, Rajul Garg, who was like first investor who committed to us right at that time when we were still building the Meesho app for small businesses offline. This is pre-pivot to the current business.
Yeah.
And like he said, hey, looks good. I'm ready to kind of support this. I think by then we had started to understand some of these needs also of women who want to do this. We were communicating about, okay, hey, this is our vision. This is what we want to do. And I still remember we were in Bangalore. We met each and every angel investor in Bangalore and everyone said no. Most people used to laugh at us. Kaun khareedta hai WhatsApp? Yeah, I think raising angel was pretty difficult. Yes, we had to pitch a lot.
How many people did you pitch? Like 10, 50, 100? How big? Like how bad was it?
Could be 100.
Wow.
Probably just in Bangalore it could be 100. We used to go to a lot of these conferences where a lot of investors showed up and used to just catch hold of them. Listen, we are building this. They're just not interested.
We cold pitch to everyone I can think of. Every single person. So we used to go to each and
you were pitching the shop story, the Meesho shop story at that point.
This Meesho shop story. And we used to go to startup competitions. We used to go to these places where investors come up through whatever connections we had, like through like some people connected me who were at InMobi, etc. I went and met them, etc. Everyone said no. Every single person said no. This sounds too crazy for us to fund, and this doesn't even make sense why this will work. And at the same time, through some of our friends, we got connected to like people who are IT Delhi alumni, and some of these guys said, "Hey, this looks interesting," and they were willing to speak to us. And I still remember one day I was telling Sanjeev Kier, every single person in Bangalore has said no to us.
Yeah.
They're not going to invest. So now we have to take a flight. And by then, we had to think very consciously of every flight we take because it was money.
Yeah.
So we were discussing should we go or not go. But I said, Sanjeev, like everyone else has said no in Bangalore. So there's no other option. We have to go to Delhi. And before that, I had cold email all possible IT Delhi alums, every single person that I could figure out or get emails on online. And few of them fortunately replied to us. We went and met some of them, met their connections, and that's how we kind of closed the angel round. Like very quickly, in about a week, a lot of people committed.
I think that decision itself was kind of very good decision, right? In just one day, we decided and flew to Delhi, and we managed to close the entire round in just a week.
Wow. So do you want to name any of these angels who came on board at that point?
Yeah. So Rajul, Neeraj from Venture Highway, right? Like at that time, invested through Venture Highway. Kashyap, Maninder, like Abhishek, Arjun, and Rohan Malhotra, right? So all of these guys like committed during that week when we were in Delhi. All of these guys are in Delhi. So that's when it happened. Like we were super happy because at that time we were kind of getting very close to Kia. Everyone said no, koi nahi karega isme invest.
Yeah.
And very frank, even now when we reflect, these guys invest in us just because Kia, your IT Delhi juniors, अगर fight मारनी तो कुछ पैसा दे देते हैं, देखा जाएगा types ना. It's like there's a lot more about it because that time like business did not have enough traction for you to say anything.
Yeah, and then so you raised this money, then you pivoted the model. Then when did you go to Y Combinator? Like I think you guys were one of the earliest teams from India to go to YC, right? When did that happen?
So when we applied to YC, I by the way didn't even think that we'll get through because the probability of getting to YC by then was so low. I think when we went, we were like the third company from India ever before this.
Yeah.
So it was very, very like rare, but we still applied. And
I think even while applying, we had such a low confidence that when it filled all the application, did one video shoot, okay, done. We don't want to waste time in filling up all of this application. And we just forgot about it, I guess. And then one day suddenly when it gets a mail, oh, you are shortlisted. You have to come to.
So you have to create this YC video, right?
Yeah.
Like, create a video. So I didn't even take the pain of asking Sanjeev to come into that video. Generally, all founders have to take.
Yeah.
So I still remember that video is like me taking a phone in front of me wherever I'm sitting and just speaking because I didn't want to spend a lot of time because I assumed that we will not get through.
Yeah.
So I'm like just karne ke liye kar diya. I don't. A lot of people now prepare, ask for feedback, nothing. We did nothing. We never even went online and saw how do other people fill this form. So we just wrote like whatever we believed in, and by pure luck, we just got a interview call. By then, we had raised an angel round, so it was not that we had to raise this, and we were super surprised, excited that hey, we'll get to go to Silicon Valley and see what's happening. And again, after going there, also got selected. Like it was, well, again, I believe the pure chance.
Yeah. I think even on that day, remember we were giving interviews, and then after that we thought, "Ab to nahi hoga." Ab to we just went to some place, I forgot the name, but we started just partying casually. Okay, ab to nahi hoga. We have come here, let's party, and we'll just go back and continue with our business. Then there we got a call ki nahi ho gaya hai, and then we started celebrating even more.
Awesome. So then, did you both have to spend time in the valley for YC?
So I think we both of us went there together, and Sanjeev came back because after we raised an angel round, we had built out a team of few people. It was getting very, very hard to manage the entire team from there. So I was there the entire time. I think now, if I reflect back, I should have come back. But Sanjeev came back, and we were running the business like in being in 2 locations, and like no one sleeps because you are in US and India time zone. So it was quite tough, but it was very interesting. Yeah, like that's the only time we've ever been exposed to an ecosystem outside of ours. I mean, a lot of things. Again, you get inspired by a lot of things, right? The kind of bets that people take in the startup ecosystem of Silicon Valley is very, very different. There were some 10 drone companies in a batch, 10, and all of them were doing things that used to make me go crazy because I don't even know if this is possible. There was one company that was trying to reinvent rocket fuel, which will be 50% more efficient. That was part of YC. So I think one of the things that I really take back from that ecosystem, I will say two things. One is it just opened up my mind around the kind of bets you can even think of taking. Right in India, like at that time at least the ecosystem was not as deep, inspiring. Things have changed now. And the second thing that I really liked about that ecosystem is how everyone kept helping each other out. Like, you can get a connect to anyone and everyone will say yes, which is, again, now things are changing, but was not true earlier in India, right? Like a lot of people won't give you time.
Yeah.
Like back in Valley, like everyone feels that they are supposed to help each other out.
Yeah. But today somebody from my team at First Check asked me कि तुम क्यों इससे बात कर रहे हो? Like ये तो and I was like नहीं वो करना पड़ता है. Like that's how you build a brand as a VC in India. Like anywhere, right? Like good karma pays off in this industry. Valley understands that really really well. I think that thinking of helping, paying it forward without expecting anything in return immediately, that thinking is just about coming to India now in the past couple of years. And even folks who are non-startup ecosystem business folks, right, when they enter the startup ecosystem, this is something which really surprises them. Like you can just go and ask somebody, "Aapne kaise kiya? Can you help me out? Can you make this connect?" And by and large, most people are open to doing it.
Yeah. Now I think things have changed a lot. Like a lot of people are much more open, helping out, much more open in sharing what they're learning on things like Twitter, LinkedIn, etc. I think a lot of things have changed the ecosystem.
Yeah.
For the good.
Okay. So till this point, you had raised angel money, you had raised YC, and how did you like find your first VC backer, and who was that fund that first backed you?
So like Saif invested in us. I think that I would say the second hardest raise of our journey so far.
Definitely.
Because we just pivoted from our earlier model, focused only on women. And again, that was also very unique and crazy, right? Like, hey, we will let women start businesses online and this will become large eventually. No one believed it. Like no one. Because they've never seen a model like this anywhere else. So I think that round was also very hard for us. But I think we've been very, very fortunate with our first investor. Right? I say this like 100 times. Both like first angels, very, very supportive in doing everything that we did. And again, even our first investor, which is Mukul from Saif, we again met all kinds of VCs and almost everyone in the ecosystem said no.
So what's the craziest reaction you got when you were pitching VCs in India?
No, I'll pass this question.
You don't have to name the VC. You can tell me what happened.
No, I think broadly I'll say this. At that time, a lot of people were not compassionate enough to understand how founders run company, what they get through, what they go through, right? Like all of this was, I don't think was as evolved in the ecosystem. I don't know if it's there now. I'm not an early stage founder. I think an early stage founder only can say. But we used to go to a lot of places and pitch, and a lot of people used to just laugh at us. Yeah, like I still remember. It just doesn't make sense. There's no reason why this will work, right? And some of that used to be disheartening, sometimes demoralizing. But because we could see numbers in our business, we could see every day the same lady will get up and use our app for like 5 hours and do this. Used to give us a lot of confidence कि चलेगा अभी कितना बड़ा होगा वो देखा जाएगा, but we really believe this and we believe that there are like hundreds of millions of women in India who want to do this. So I think that experience taught us this, and that's why it was that toughest phase. But I think when we met Mukul for the first time, the idea was different. We kept meeting him. I think I knew him for about 2 years until then. Right. But I think it was a tough race, but we were very, very fortunate in getting a backer like Saif, especially Mukul. Even they said no for the first time, but I think Mukul persisted. Hey, there's something there. I don't know what it will become, but I really believe in the team. Everything looks good, how they're executing, etc. And I think every early stage founder essentially needs a backer like that in the beginning, right? Especially when things are not very clear. And for most companies who eventually end up becoming large, you start with something which is not very clear, right? Otherwise, if the opportunity was so clear, like 10 other people would be doing it today.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so how big is Misho now? Like, how many employees do you guys have? What scale do you run at now?
Yeah, so like, we don't share our GMV order numbers publicly, but we now have about 9 million women
Wow.
who are running their business using a platform, and that essentially fuels our pride today. The whole company, me and Sanjeev, just take pride in the kind of impact we've created together as a company and as a team, right? Like every time, I think it's very common in a company that we get these emails from these entrepreneurs who are sending how grateful they are to us because of how their life has changed. Like someone is sending us an email, like this lady who is handicapped and she studied, like she's masters in something, but is handicapped and struggled to find a job, but now is able to kind of run a business. She's found confidence, she's found self-respect. People really treat her with dignity, and that has changed her life. And we keep getting these like appreciating emails, and that's what essentially gives us motivation, right? That's what makes us come to office every single day and stay like as focused as we can on our vision and goal. So I think that's where it is. But yeah, I think we've come a long way. I never thought that we'll get to 9 million entrepreneurs in 4 years when we were starting up. I think just thinking a number in millions used to be quite crazy. But now we have 9 million entrepreneurs who are running all kinds of businesses across the country. In terms of our team size, we are about 1,000 people today across everything. Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. Like, so awesome to see these kind of stories getting built out in India now. So, you guys have now also become angel investors, right? You started writing early stage checks to very, very selectively to some founders. So what do you kind of look for in founders that you want to angel invest in or that you want to back?
So I think I'll start with this and maybe Sanjeev will add. Like to me at least, there's only two things from our experience. I think maybe this is not the right thing to do, but we try to look for us in some way in the kind of investors we fund for two reasons. We believe like we struggle. We don't want like the new age with Sin Sanjeev to struggle as much. Right? Like we want someone who is really passionate, really hungry. We really like them. We know that even if things are not very clear today, they can essentially get to where they want. So I think team is very, very important to us. And team that is hungry, where the co-founders know each other for quite some time, which means there's massive trust so that when these guys will pivot 5 times, they're still going to stay together, right? Which is very, very tough otherwise.
Yeah.
I have seen so many times that, hey, people start with one idea and you have to be okay with pivoting by gathering more and more information, but the team just doesn't hold up together for a long time. So I'm saying team that gels together, the founders are smart, committed, really believe in what they're doing, I think is one. And the second thing for me is just the market size. Like in our case, when we started off, our only simple framework was we are flexible with the idea, but we want to be in a space where we are able to eventually build. If everything goes right, we should be able to build potentially one of the largest companies in India, making one of the largest impact possible. Right? That was a single framework we had. Okay, it should be a large market if everything else falls in place. If it doesn't, then anyways, no one knows what will happen. So if these two things come, I think everything else changes over time. These two things are like the things that matter to me.
Yeah, I think just one more thing and probably fits into the first point as well. Apart from founder dynamics, probably all of these are going to be tech businesses, right? Because you have to kind of scale very quickly, support that scale. So probably having that expertise to some extent in one of the co-founders or one of the founders is going to be very helpful because in the beginning you have to iterate very quickly. And unless one of them is deeply involved in tech, very difficult to build a team in the beginning because anyway you have a lot of constraints on capital, etc. I think all these three factors are what we usually look at while deciding whether to invest or not.
Yeah, and by the way, this I missed asking you guys earlier. In the early days, what was the dynamic between you? Like, who did what, and how did you decide कौन क्या करेगा team में?
So in the early days, Sanjeev used to code and I used to deliver.
Yeah, this is passionate time. And he used to go and take photographs as well.
And so then from Sanjeev coding, me delivering, then when we shifted to Misho, then Sanjeev coding and me doing cataloging of photographs. Then it became Sanjeev coding and me chatting with our entrepreneurs to get feedback so we know what to build next. Right. So that's how our role is evolved. And today, as of today, Sanjeev is tech and I am everything non-tech, but just keeps evolving as the business changes.
Yeah. Awesome. I think that dynamic between the founders is just so important, and even for us at First Check, right? Like if we like, you're absolutely right. It's a very stressful journey, right? And if the co-founding team doesn't stick through it, there's no way you can build a company.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult, right? You need someone whom you can trust and probably have those honest conversations.
Yeah.
Just realize what is happening. Just make sense of what is happening around you. That trust is going to be very important always.
Yeah. Okay. And any advice or any misconception or myths about the startup world? Anything you would want to tell young people starting up today?
I have a lot of advice, and I think I have, starting last year, started to write a lot more on like Twitter and LinkedIn for the same thing. I don't think one or two advice does it for especially the young entrepreneurs. We struggled in the beginning because we did not have people to reach out to. I want to make sure that people now at least get access to it. You are now creating videos so that a lot of these guys are much more informed when they're getting term sheets and deciding what to do. So I think I keep sharing, but if I have to take one specific advice today and share is, I would say it's okay. It's okay for you to keep changing. It's okay for you to not know what the right answer is in the beginning, right? Be extremely fixated on the problem statement and be extremely flexible about the solution that you have, right? So we have had 3 solutions, but meta level, the problem that we've been solving is how do we enable small businesses? That's what we started with the day, like on day one. But should we solve it by building a hyper local commerce platform? Should we solve it by building a Shopify kind simple product that will let you start a store online? Or do we solve it by our current Misho business where we let people come online and start a business without any investment and give them access to supply through a marketplace, right?
Yeah.
Different solutions. But the only thing we stuck to was the problem statement and everything else was flexible. I see a lot of people, and I have seen a lot of my friends who started up and then winded up, right? People just stick to what they started with for way too long.
Yeah.
They're not intellectually honest with the kind of feedback you're getting on the ground. Are people really using it, not using it? You just keep hearing what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And you do it for so long, then you get frustrated and you just leave. It's such a common story, right? I think to me, being intellectually honest, just staying very, very attached to the problem, but by being very flexible to the solution is, I think, an approach that every early stage founder really needs.
That's great advice. I think. I mean, that's the mistake even I made at my startup. We took too long to realize what nahi chal raha hai. It was in front of our eyes, right? But the brain doesn't want to accept. The heart doesn't want to accept what the brain is processing.
It's difficult, right? You already spent so much time and energy into building something.
Yeah. The key is you don't have to give up on the startup, but you can give up on the idea or the solution, as you said. You can keep iterating on that, and if you can keep building quickly, launching quickly, learning quickly, and again going through that cycle, you will hit upon something that will eventually work.
Correct.
Yeah. I think I can give one advice from tech point of view. So I think in the beginning, on day one, probably neither tech stack nor scalability matters, right? The only thing which matters is your ability to, in some sense, parse your customer feedback and build solutions, iterate very quickly. I think the only thing which is important for you to grow and sustain in the beginning is this iteration, capability to very quickly change directions and just go out in the market.
Nice.
This is very, very important, by the way. Like, and I think Sanjeev, being a techie, can tell you a lot of engineers out there really want to build everything very right. Right? It's like you emotionally get connected to your code.
Yeah.
Hey, I will not take shortcuts. I will not build something which is non-scalable. I will not do refactoring, etc. later on. Like a lot of people are attached to it, but they're not optimizing for the right thing. You're trying to make sure that you can iterate fast, that you can learn fast, that you get to the right answer fast. And for that, making some of these trade-offs in the beginning is okay.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, in fact, I get very happy when we meet founders who have not coded anything, but they have managed to run their business through some hacks, like, you know, building an MVP on WhatsApp or YouTube videos, or basically there are a bunch of people who go through that cycle for the first 3-4 months with no tech and no code, and prove that this is actually working before they actually start to write the code out, right? And that, I think that's super important, because as you said, till that time you are not being intellectually honest to yourself. It's easy to it's easy to sort of believe that I'm doing something productive, right? If you're busy every day from for 12 hours, you feel मैं बहुत मचा रहा हूँ, but actually it doesn't matter, right? Whatever you build, if the custom market is king, market doesn't accept what you have built, it doesn't matter how much time you spent on it.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. So thank you so much, Vidit and Sanjeev, for taking us through your journey. I think this is going to be super inspiring for a whole generation of founders as they see what you guys have built with Misho. One of the things which we want to change at First Check is to get, you know, more Indian founders to share their journeys and share their learnings, and I think it helps a lot, helps everybody in the ecosystem. So thank you guys again for doing this. Thank you so much.
No, of course, and this was also our first thing together, I think.
Right.
So yeah, and that's why maybe if you do a lot of things alone, a lot of ideas don't come. When you do everything together, so बहुत सारी story that you tend to forget, the other person gets out. So
काफी सही था, I think. First experience was
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you so much.